Hi everyone, I'm Teacher Esther. Sorry for the wait and thank you for your patience. I'm very happy today to be able to share with you some important tips in helping your child achieve greater heights for Chinese. So let me introduce myself. I'm from HYQ Education Consultancy. As most of you can guess it, HYQ stands for HYQ. Okay, and what is our mission? Our mission is to make Chinese learning interesting for all our students, and we hope that one day Chinese can become your child's best friend. Let me introduce myself more. I'm a mother of three. I'm also the founder of HYQ Education. And currently, I'm also holding the post of as a consultant to parents. So I do provide consultation to parents who are keen to find out how they can help their children. And I'm also a private tutor for students. So I do teach one-to-one. And prior to that, I was an ex-MOE primary school teacher teaching Chinese language. And since 2009, I have been teaching, and to date, I've been teaching for about 11 years already. So through my years of experiences, and I realized most of our students are finding it a challenge to study Chinese or to achieve great heights level Chinese. I think one of the reasons is probably most of our children are coming from English-speaking family these days. So Chinese has become a more difficult subject per se. Okay. So what are the four most common questions that have been posed to me lately, as well as for the past few years when parents approach me? Okay, one of them is how to improve my child's result for Chinese paper 2. I think that's the very important and questions that most of parents are facing. And the other one is, what kind of questions will be asked in the open-ended comprehension? How to guide my child write a good composition, as well as how to help my child prepare for their video oral conversation. Okay, today, due to the time constraint, I will touch on these topics in 4 different videos. So today's one will be on the first point, how to improve my child's result for Chinese paper 2. All right, the rest of this presentation will be mainly in English because I hope to give you a better understanding. But of course, at times when necessary, I'll be explaining in Chinese too. So I hope you can go through this with me with patience. Thank you. Okay, so how to improve Chinese paper results when your child cannot remember the vocabularies, the child is not interested in learning Chinese, as well as when the child does not speak Mandarin often. Okay, I think these are the very common challenges that we have when we are teaching our children. We wanted to influence them, we want them to learn, but we don't have a proper way or system to guide them as parents. Okay. The very important reason that I could think of, and based on my experience, the child cannot remember the vocabularies because they did not revise the essential, which I'm referring to the school notes or the vocab handbook. Okay, a lot of parents came to me and explained to me that their children are unable to remember the vocabularies. And when I asked them, what books do you have, or what reference books do you have, or notes do you have? Most of them will tell me that I only have a textbook. Okay, if some of them will say that they do have vocab handbook or school notes lah, but apparently they did not really know what is important and what is not important. So maybe they overlook the important points when revising. Okay, so before we want to understand what kind of materials we need to help our children, we need to know first what are being tested in paper 2 itself. Okay, these are the 4 main areas that are being tested in paper 2. First is the Hanyu Pinyin. Second is Chinese meanings. This is applicable for all types of vocabularies except for nouns. We do not test them in paper 2. Okay, but other than that, like adjective, verbs, we do test them for their meaning. So parents, please take note of this. Okay, and 词语搭配, which refers to the use of one vocab with another vocab. Okay, later I'll touch more on this. Okay, then the fourth one is 形式字 and 英式字. Okay, these two is to test a child's ability to differentiate words that look similar or sound similar. Okay, so let's look at point number 1, 汉语拼音. As all of you, maybe those parents whose children are in P4 haven't seen the paper yet for P5. Those parents who have already had children in P5, you should have seen this paper before. The first 2 questions are on 汉语拼音. Okay, for example question, this is taken from one of the exam papers. 我的爷爷曾经在一所小学当华文老师. So the important part is the question is asking for the 汉语拼音 of the underlined words over here. So these words is actually pronounced as 曾经. And when they are testing the child 汉语拼音, they're actually testing the child's ability to recognize the word. Okay, please take note. Okay, and if the child is able to identify the 汉语拼音 correctly, that means they are able to recognize that word. Okay, so this should be emphasized during the Chinese learning for each chapter. Okay, second, we talk about Chinese meanings, which is applicable for all except nouns. All right, for example, over here, the underlined word is 昏暗. So the student needs to know what is the Chinese meaning of 昏暗. And in fact, in school notes, in handbook, this is given. But because a lot of students, maybe they have no exposure to this, so they may not know the meaning. In fact, the answer is number 1. Okay, 光线不足. And besides that section to test meaning, there's another section which is the open-ended comprehension. First 2 questions, they are testing Chinese meanings. Okay, although yes, earlier I was mentioning in this video we'll be talking about paper 2, maybe the MCQ part only, and not the comprehension part because we will need to have another session on that. But these 2 questions happen to be asking for Chinese meanings, which I was mentioning. So for these 2 questions, these 2 types of questions, students need to refer to the comprehension passage itself and find the word that means, for example, 指出缺点 in question 35. Okay, 指出缺点 means 批评. Okay, so 批评 is the word that is being taught in class during chapter learning, and student has to be able to understand the meaning and identify the vocabulary that has this meaning during the exam. Okay, so they're supposed to write it down. And if your child has prepared for this section, which is prepared well enough, you'll find that this section is a very easy section to gain marks. Okay, because you just need to write 2 words, or at most 4 or 5 words, and you can get 2 marks. Okay, for open-ended comprehension questions, is considered the easiest of all. Okay. And the third part is 词语搭配. Okay, 词语搭配 is the part where the students will be taught on how to apply a vocab, okay, or more like using of the vocabulary. So in order for the child to be able to use a vocabulary, they need to learn 搭配. Okay, for example, let's look at this question. 我国选手 what? 对手赢得了冠军. The important word is 对手. So if a child knows that 打败 means defeat who? Opponent, 对手, then they will be able to identify that question number 1 is option number 1 is the answer. So the child needs to know the meaning of the word 打败, defeat, and needs to know that 打败 means defeat opponent or 打败敌人, which is an enemy. Okay, so if a child is being taught that way, right, is being given this knowledge, they will find this question actually quite easy to answer. Okay, besides that type of question, there's another MCQ type of questions that also test 搭配. Okay, for example, it's over here. You are supposed to find the sentence that is correct. Okay, so the word tested is is 瘦弱. 瘦弱 means weak and thin and weak. Okay, so what can be thin and weak? Over here, the answer should be number 3, which is 身体瘦弱. But for students who do not have this knowledge, they will find this a very difficult question too. Okay, so next one will be 形式字. over here you see 4 options with similar words with similar appearance. So students are being tested on 形式字. They are supposed to be able to differentiate or identify the correct one for this question. Okay, the next question is 英式字. Okay, so all these 4 options have similar, I wouldn't say exactly the same, but similar 汉语拼音. So students need to identify which one is the correct one for this question. And for this question, they are asking for 激动. Okay, the word that is important is this part. So you're looking at this question, the option number 3 is the answer. 激动地欢呼起来. Okay, and all these are being taught in class too. Okay, but why is the textbook not enough? Okay, based on what I explained to you earlier, because it does not include the English and Chinese meanings. It does not include 词语搭配. It does not include 形式字, 英式字, and 多音字. Okay, 多音字 refers to words with more than one pronunciation. Okay, usually 多音字will affect more for children who are thinking higher mother tongue, as well as during oral, because during oral, teachers will be testing students words that have different pronunciation. Okay. Okay, and why school notes and vocabulary handbook? It's because they include English and Chinese meanings. It includes 词语搭配, it includes 形式字, 英式字, and 多音字. Okay, let's look at it. We look at a sample. Okay, so over here, 瘦弱, which was one of the questions we mentioned earlier. 瘦弱 means 肌肉不丰富, 软弱无力, very weak and thin. To make it simpler for understanding, for children to understand in the first place, maybe we tell them what is the English meaning. Then for P5, P6 students, it is compulsory for them to know the Chinese meaning, because as I mentioned earlier, in the exam itself, there will be questions asking them to identify the vocabulary that has this meaning, as well as there's MCQ questions that are testing them the meaning. Okay, so over here they give 搭配. Over here you see 身体瘦弱. Okay, if we were to teach our students these details, right, these essential points, and over here, 打败means defeat the enemy or 战胜敌人. Okay, we can say 打败敌人, or we can also teach the students 打败对手. Okay, and over here there's 形式字 and 英式字. They highlighted them. Okay, words that look similar and words that pronounce similar as 败, you know. Okay. So if we have taught them this, let's go back to the 2 questions. Okay, so over here we will know that 打败 we can 打败对手 opponent. Then you can win you can achieve victory. Okay, and over here 瘦弱, because we know from our notes that 瘦弱 means weak and thin. So 身体可以瘦弱. For the rest cannot. 衣服鞋子都不可以瘦弱，冷气也不可以，声音也不可以. Okay. Okay, now the problem comes. How to make our child remember what they learned? Like what I mentioned earlier, if the child is able to answer the questions, that's probably because they remember the words they have learned. Okay, so how to make a child remember the words they have learned? Okay, the first crucial point is they need to revise many times. I'm sorry to tell you that, but this is the only way that they can achieve great heights for their Chinese. Okay. And in the traditional way, many of us as parents, me myself too last time, okay, we use exam papers, assessment books, worksheet, workbook, and anything you can find, you can name it. Okay, we have it. Okay, spelling, all these ways to test our students' understanding for the vocabulary for each chapter. But are they effective? Let me tell you, they are not effective. Why is it so? Okay, because in the exam papers, assessment books, worksheet, spelling, whatever, there are just too many vocabularies. And because of too many vocabularies, it becomes an inaccurate assessment of the child, because the child will find it very difficult to understand every questions. And because of that, right, it becomes very time consuming for them to complete the papers, as well as I think it's very time consuming for parents to mark the papers after their children have done them. Okay, it's very hard for the parents to assess their learning through using assessment books, through using the exam papers, etc. So and most importantly, the worksheets cannot be reused. Students cannot retry if they were to fail the first time. And to be frank with you, it can be very discouraging. Okay, it's like no more chance already, that's it. But because of this, children find it very hard to revise and redo. And as we know as an educator, right, for a child to remember what they learn, repetition is very important. Okay, especially for primary school students. If you have experience with your own kids, right, you realize that if you were to go through the same thing with your child for 10 times, just repeating it by itself, you don't need your child to do anything, just repeating it 10 times to them, you'll be able to remember it very fast. The younger the child is, the better their memory. I think you should have this experience, right? All right, so how to make a child do repetition? Okay, repeat revising and repeat of exposure, repeat exposing themselves to the same words. Okay, so to bridge these two, HYQ word cards and HYQ booklet has been created. Okay, this has been done based on my experience of teaching, as well as experimental. I have done a lot of experiments on my students, and we realized that this is a very effective way and very encouraging way, motivating way to teach them. Okay, let me explain more about these two right now. Okay, why HYQ is good? Because it is a very fast and effective way to assess a child's learning. Later I'll demonstrate to you to give you a better understanding. And second, I think this is the more crucial part. In order for a child to achieve good results, I think motivating them to learn the vocabularies is equally, if not more important, I feel. Okay. And HYQ cards are available for primary 1B to 6B. Okay, 1A is missing because we in P1A mostly Hanyu Pinyin, so they do not teach a lot of vocabularies, so I did not include them in this HYQ cards. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, it's designed for P1 to P6 students, and it is based on the latest MOE syllabus. Each box consists of between 226 cards to 338 word cards. And please note that parents, that card pairing can only be done after the student has revised his or her vocabularies for that chapter. All right, because we don't want them to try pairing the cards when they are unprepared. Okay. And let me introduce, open up, you can see the cards. They are sorted according to the chapters in the textbook. It is easy to use, and most importantly, is reusable. Okay, let me show you how you can play this card with your child. So after you have asked your child to probably revise the words from chapter 7 of P5 textbook. Okay, for example, today we're using P5 textbook. Okay, so after you ask your child to revise chapter 7, you can ask your child to take up the cards from chapter 7, okay, and then ask him or her to arrange the cards according to the colors this way. Okay, so left hand side is the pink card and the right hand side is the blue card. Okay, please note that the pink cards are the first card, the blue cards are the second card. Okay, then the child's task is to match the cards correctly. Okay, this way. So for example, 溜走 means sneak away. So total 溜走 means sneak away quiet, secretly. Okay, then 瘦弱 means weak and thin, right? So weak, thin and weak. So we can say body is thin and weak. All right. And after they have finished doing the matching, how do you check your child's learning through this activity? You ask them to read out all the vocabularies. For example, 身体瘦弱, and ask them to say the meaning too. Okay, if possible. And 身体瘦弱 means the body is very weak and thin and weak. All right. 曾经看过 have seen something before. 输了比赛 you lose in a competition. Okay, if you find that your child is ready, maybe you can ask your child to form a sentence. So by testing your child in forming a sentence, you will see whether the child is able to apply what they have learned. Okay, for example, 身体瘦弱. Okay, probably you can ask the child, can you form a sentence using 身体瘦弱? And if the child can form a sentence like this, 奶奶生病了，所以身体变得很瘦弱. If your child can use it this way, that means in future, when in their daily life, they'll be able to apply this knowledge too. Okay, for learning of a language, in order for a child to remember it forever, the most important part is they have to learn how to apply in their daily life. As long as they can apply in their daily life, they'll always remember it forever. Okay, so you have no worries in future. Okay. Okay, some suggested ways to play the card game with your child is through what I mentioned earlier, pairing of the cards. In fact, when you're doing pairing of the cards, because each chapter consists of maybe 20 pairs of cards. Okay, for children who has difficulty remembering the words, so many words at one time, maybe my suggestion to you is you break it down, break the task up into a few parts. For example, today you ask your child to learn the first 5 words in the handbook or the school notes. Then you say maybe tomorrow you will test the child of that 5 words first. Okay, if he or she can accomplish that task, then maybe the next day, the 3rd day, you will test another 5 words. So you break the 20 words into a few days to test your child. And this will actually let your child gain confidence over time. The fact that a lot of children lose their motivation in learning Chinese, one of the very important reasons is because they lose the confidence in it. Okay, first thing we need to do is to let them gain this confidence, and then they will be automatically they will become motivated. All right, and because it's in the form of a game, you make it more interesting. And I am suggesting another game. It's called the memory game. You can refer to my website. There's a video on that. It's called the memory game. It's an extension. So after you ask your child to pair up the cards, and you realize that there are just some of the words, some are not all, some of the words that your child is unable to pair them up or say them or recognize them, they have difficulty in remembering them, then probably you can play this memory game with them. Okay, in the video I share on how you can play this game. All right, so during that game, right, you have to repeat the words with on purpose. Okay, it is with an objective in mind. By repeating it many times, your child will be able to remember the words better. Okay, and of course there are some teachers or parents who share with me that they play guessing game with their children. Okay, you can just take out the cards and then put it on your forehead, ask the child to explain the words or use it to describe the words so that you can guess. Okay, you can do it vice versa. All right, so the point is, if at any point of time your child is unable to pair all the cards correctly, explain the words correctly, or unable to recognize the words, please ask your child to go back to the handbook or school notes to revise again and give them 1 or 2 more days to revise them. Okay, so this process can be repeated many times. Okay, revising, then playing with the cards. Then if not able to accomplish, then go back to the handbook again, revise a few more times, then pair up the cards again. Okay, once these are done correctly and efficiently, right, by your child, you can ask them to try out assessment books as well as exam papers. Okay, so way before you let them do exam papers during the exam period. Okay, like maybe 1 month later is the exam period. Maybe you can do a quick run through of all the words using the cards, just to check their learning. Okay, if you find that there are words they have forgotten or stuff like that, you can ask them to go back to the handbook and revise again. Okay, so it's a very good way to go through all the words just before exam. Okay, so if, like what I said just now, if the child is able to read out the words, then we will have achieved word recognition. Okay, for language learning, word recognition is very important, especially for Chinese. Okay, and understanding, if they are able to pair the words correctly, that means they have understood the meaning of the words, as well as they are able to apply or use that vocabulary. Okay, if these 3 objectives are met, that means the child has already mastered the vocabulary. And parents, isn't that what we wanted to do? We want them to remember the vocabs, right? Okay, so the benefits of this card is fun and interesting. As compared to exam papers or assessment books, of course, it's much more fun. And children look forward to this kind of testing, this method of assessments more compared to the traditional ones. And one very important thing is very fast and effective to assess your child's learning. Okay, based on my experience, my students' experience, if they are very well prepared for their chapter, it takes at most 5 to 10 minutes to complete the pairing and checking. All right, but if the child is not prepared, okay, or probably not enough of preparation, they will probably take about half an hour. Yeah, so from there you can gauge whether your child has in fact revised enough. Okay, then the next there are other points, but I want to emphasize that it is reusable. So if you find that your child is not ready, you can ask them to revise their handbook again, their notes again, give them chances, okay, to do better the next time around, so that they can gain the confidence. So being reusable, right, the cards is very helpful in this way, because it encourages the students that, hey, it's okay, this time around you are unable to finish all the pairing, I'll give you another chance, tomorrow we'll do it again. So it gives you very accurate assessment of the child after that. Okay, and in fact the 3 ways that I mentioned earlier is just the very few ways that you can use. There are many other interesting ways I believe parents can come up with, and here I want to ask for your help. If you have many interesting ways that right now you have, or you are when you are playing with your children and you came up with some new ways, please share with me. You can contact me via my email or my website or my contact number. Please share with me so that I can share with more parents who are also using the cards at home, so that they can find more ways to play games with their children. Okay, because after all, we hope through sharing, right, our children can benefit more and help to release the stress on parents too. Okay, and many parents has come back to me, and then they have mentioned that the cards have really helped them and their children find back the interest to learn Chinese, and I'm very happy to hear that. Okay. Okay, the answers, okay, to make checking and assessing of your child's learning easier, the answers are available for downloading on my website. All right, you can just click on my website, or you can go into my website and go to the answers button and click on it, and there you will find this available. Okay, you have on the box, right, they will on the inside of the box, there is a password for each level. You can key in the password, okay, and download the answers into your phone or your computer. And the good thing is you just need to download once will do. The next time you need, maybe this round you are using chapter 1's answer, you can look at chapter 2's answer the next time round without re-downloading again. Okay. Okay, so the answers look like this. So for example, P3B, there are probably 7 chapters. So 7 chapters of answers will be in this attachment. All right, so this is just one of the chapters, and it looks like this. Let me briefly go through this answer sheet with you. Okay, so you see the pink card and the blue cards with their English meaning and HYQ pinyin. So you can, when you're asking your child to read out, example, 乱扔垃圾, when you hear them say the word, probably you can look at the HYQ pinyin whether it is correct or not. Did they read it correctly? And then if you ask them the English meaning and they are able to tell you is to litter rubbish, then you understand that your child actually has mastered the vocabulary. Okay, you look at the back here. There are a few columns which are in white. These are other possible answers that can pair with the red color, the pink cards. For example, let's look at 爱护. 爱护 means to love and protect. Besides 爱护花草, we can also say 爱护环境. Okay, but if your child happen to pair it this way, probably you can emphasize to your child that it is correct. Okay, but over here in our to make sure that all our cards have a friend, we cannot pair this with 爱护. We need to pair it with 破坏环境, because we cannot say 破坏花草, we say 破坏环境, which is more appropriate. Okay. Okay, lastly, to help our children be able to answer the questions that ask for the meaning of the word, lately I have created this 课文测试 booklet. Okay, this in the booklet itself is the questions are asked according to each chapter. Okay, let me go through this chapter with you. For example, we try out chapter 8. Okay, so we are looking at chapter question 7 and 8. So on the left side is a textbook example of a passage from the textbook. Okay, so the child is supposed to find from the textbook passage the word that means 知道得很清楚 for question 7. Okay, 知道得很清楚, in fact the answer is 熟悉. So from the textbook, they're supposed to find the word that has this meaning and put it into the booklet. Okay, same. Let's do another one. 生活资源缺乏，生活所需要的物质不够。物质不够 means whatever you need is not enough. So what does that mean? Means 贫穷, means poor. Okay, so they're supposed to find from the textbook and put it inside the booklet itself. So using the cards and the booklet and this booklet together, you'll be able to 100%. You can assess your child's learning for that chapter fully. Okay, you'll be able to check whether your child knows how to recognize the word, the meaning, and how to use it. Okay, if they are able to accomplish these 3 points, they are prepared for paper 2 for Chinese. Okay, so after using the cards, these are what my student says. You can find more in my website. Okay, they are happy children who enjoy the learning of Chinese. Okay, and lastly, I hope through HYQ word cards, through HYQ booklet, your child will find Chinese learning interesting, and that one day you will say that Chinese has become their best friend. Thank you, everyone.